Hello everybody, welcome to Secure PHP Development by Hakin9. In this video, we're going to look at how to prevent Xxe attacks. So, we're going to look at some of the strategies that we can use to prevent Xxe attacks altogether. There are very many strategies, but we need to understand what the problem really is. So, in PHP, when you use any XML parser, be it XML reader, DOM, simple XML, they really behave the same, or rather act the same, and they do take entities defined within the doc type header and they try to expand them so that now you can have a new XML document or a refined XML document that will ensure it actually processes what we send as the new command or query. So there are quite a number of things you can do around this, but you need to understand where they're based from, and largely most are based from libxml libraries. And the first thing that you would look at as a strategy is simply download external entities. Since all this functionality is based on libxml, then that is one function that you would disable and it will actually kill everything rather. So if you set the libxml disable entity loader to true, it will do that. This particular function tells the underlying libxml parser that it should not try to interpret any of the values of any entities from incoming XML. So as you saw, we defined a new doc type for Hakin9, and we also defined the file to steal as a new entity. So all this would still get to the server, but it will not be interpreted by the XML parser. If you are using simple XML, then this would be the best way to deal with this particular issue as a library. It's not as flexible, so it would force you to really do this. So for the other two XML parsers, that is DOM and XML reader, however, there are a few more features that you can utilize to allow XML parsing but still load it as well, or without all this overhead which could lead to the attack. So you can add a function, the load XML function, and you can pass your bad or unfiltered XML to it, but then give it the libxml dtload and dtd attribute filters, and once these are passed, or rather once these methods are passed, they'll keep your application safer from an Xxe, but not fully prevent it. So they'd work more like limitations to it successfully occurring depending on context, because the XML you're receiving from an outside source is still going to need some validation before being injected into your system. So in general, we end up with those strategies. That is, you either allow or deny loading of XML entities. A good flag for this in the libxml is libxml noent, or you enable or deny external entities, which is libxml no dtload, and avoid showing errors which would give the attacker more information, and this can be libxml no error. Other things you can do is avoid by design. Simply, why not use JSON or YAML? So yet another markup language is also an option. JavaScript object notation is also another option. So these representations come with their own risks. However, if you compare with this, they'd be slightly easier to fix, or rather even control. So you also need to look at any third parties code that you might be using, as it may be vulnerable to Xxe. And that's a usual blind spot for most applications. You can also automate protection, and this can be done by creating various security checkpoints before consuming data from an external source. Another thing you can do is properly configure your DTDs so that by design it would whitelist only trusted external document type definitions. And then in the containment phase, which is actually where you would want to just limit what can be done, you can limit external code execution or even server file system browsing. Now, in order to fix our current Xxe issue, as we can see here, it was consuming everything. So in our case, the library is using simple XML. So the new DOM document. So what we would do is simply set this to true. This way it will simply disallow loading of external entities. So we'll just save that. So once that is saved, we can attempt the attack again. And as you can see, there is no response now. Even if we repeat it, still no response. The reason being now, it's not loading the external entity that we are sending to the. In the next video, we are going to look at we're going to look at serialized data, and we'll look at more details about some of the risks on these other notations similar to, or rather in JSON format, which is basically serialized data. Thank you.